Stan Schmidt, who was, I think, a vice president for development in about that era, and Keith Lincoln, who is the head of the Alumni Association, came into the office and basically said, there's the old cattle barn, which was in really bad disrepair, about to fall down. It was within a couple months of being demolished. And they said, maybe we're crazy, but could that thing be turned into an alumni center? Went in and started walking through it, and actually structurally it was pretty good, but walked into the upper level, the hayloft, literally, still hay spread on the floor that hadn't been cleaned out, and of course all sorts of bugs and critters and so forth in there. I took one look at that and I thought, man, this would make a magnificent assembly area or huge lounge. The more we looked at it, we thought, you know, maybe there's some possibilities here. There were about 6 of us, jumped on an airplane and visited a bunch of alumni centers throughout kind of the Midwest generally. When we got to a town and had to rent a car, we needed a pretty good-sized car. You know, Keith Lincoln's not a small person, and Bob Smalley was with us, Jerry Johnson, myself, Stan Coe, who was, I think, head of the Alumni Association at that time. One of the things that we really wanted to do was reestablish the character of the original barn that had these 2 huge silos there. But we didn't really want to try to duplicate it. We weren't doing a historic renovation. We were really doing an adaptive reuse of a historic building. Usually in saving historic buildings or adaptive reuse at that time, it would be like maybe you're converting an apartment building into a hotel, or I mean something that's somewhat related, but to turn a cow barn into an alumni center was stretching a bit. Of course, an alumni center has a lot of needs. You need public restrooms, you need circulation, you need to get around. None of that existed in the existing building, of course. We looked at the topography and the road network around there and discovered we could actually come in under the one side of the building, hold it in place, excavate below it, and stick a basement underneath that end of it. That basement was not part of the original barn. Normally in a building, if you're in a kind of an open area and there are rows of columns in it, these columns will be aligned with each other, you know, they're opposite each other. If you go into that building, you'll see that there are 2 rows of columns, but they don't line up with each other. They're on a different spacing. That was because the barn was originally built both for cattle and horses, and one side were the horse stalls and one side were the cattle stalls, and a horse stall is a different width than a cattle stall. A horse stall is narrower than a cattle stall. We wanted to do a kind of a informal seating area and build in the fireplace. And Fred Rounds was one of my professors there, was a professor of architecture. He previously had been the college or university architect. The Rounds family wanted some sort of a memorial to Fred Rounds. So of course we then changed kind of a square configuration into the circular configuration. It was a beautiful location. Of all the alumni centers we visited, some of them were new buildings, but way off campus somewhere, or they were jammed into something in a restricted site. The fact we had this beautiful open site, with a, kind of sitting on the hill all by itself that we were able to preserve was just, was too good to pass up. Yeah, it was really an alumni-driven thing. About the time we had gotten past the concept stage and this was a go, that was about the time we opened our Seattle office, and I moved to Seattle. And at that time, Steve McNutt, who also is a WSU alum, really took over the project, and he shepherded it through the actual construction phase. The other key individual to this was an attorney in Spokane, Dennis McLaughlin, who was deeply involved with the Alumni Association. He was able to negotiate with the university. The Alumni Association was given the right of entry to the building and the right to do renovation of the building. One of the other people involved was Jerry Johnson of Johnson & Sons Construction Company in Spokane. So Jerry was working with us and really acted as the construction manager when we actually built this. As an architect, you sometimes hesitate to go back to a building. I can and have walked into that building, and it is virtually the same, and it's been immaculately maintained. It's a delight to go back, frankly, and see it in that kind of condition.